States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We have the happy presentation of an additional police officer to our police department. Chief, do you want to speak to this applicant?
I would. Board, included in your packet is a request to the board to appoint Nicholas D. Moffitt as a police officer with the department and to conduct the swearing-in following. The appointment is to fill a vacant sworn officer position within the department. Nicholas is here tonight. He's 22 years old and currently resides in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. He was raised in Doylestown and attended high school in Connecticut, where he graduated from the Kent School in 2014. He graduated from Penn State University in 2018 with a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology and a minor in Psychology. He's a 2019 graduate of the Temple University Police Academy and has passed his state certification exams. As I look around the room tonight, I see many fine officers who represent Doylestown Township daily. Each in their own way have a positive impact within our community, and I thank each of you here tonight for that. When we hire an officer, we try to go through an extensive selection process with the goal to hire the candidate that best fits Doylestown Township. Although there are no guarantees that all hires will work out, we have been very fortunate over time. The officers present are acutely aware of the significance of Nick's appointment to the law enforcement community. For those of you who are not aware, Nick will become the third member of his immediate family to become a police officer within the Central Bucks community. His father, Will, is a sergeant in Buckingham Township, and his brother, Jeff, is an officer in Plumstead Township. And although I've only gotten to know Nick over the past several months, I have personally known Nick's father and brother for many years. Both represent their communities in a manner consistent with the standards we expect of our officers, and although not a guarantee, I am confident that Nicholas is the best to fit and fill the vacancy in Doylestown Township. Nicholas Moffitt has successfully completed all phases of the testing process, and I recommend his appointment to the Doylestown Township Police Department.
Okay. I'll make that motion on behalf of the chief and as Director of Public Safety. Is there a second? A second.
Yep.
Any questions, conversations?
No.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
As a first tonight, I've recently learned that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors and the Director of Public Safety is permitted by law in the second-class township of Pennsylvania to conduct swearing-ins. And I've asked Barbara Lyons to conduct her first swearing-in of the first sworn police officer in Doylestown Township.
And it's my honor to do so. Nicholas Moffitt.
Get past?
Assume Nick's here with his mom and dad, Will Moffitt and Deborah.
Nicholas, who
Brenda.
all do you want to have up here? Hi. Good to see you. How do you do, Barbara Lyons? Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Whoever wants to hold the Bible. On behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the County of Bucks, and the Township of Doylestown, please repeat after me. Is it
Green.
Yeah. Okay. I, Nicholas D. Moffitt, do solemnly swear
I, Nicholas D. Moffitt, do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances of Doylestown Township against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
and the ordinances of Doylestown Township against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
And I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
and enforce the law without consideration to a person's age, race, color, or sex,
and enforce the law without consideration to a person's age, race, sex,
or color,
or color,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
religion, national origin, or ancestry,
religion, national origin, or ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
I, Nicholas D. Moffitt, do further solemnly swear
I, Nicholas D. Moffitt, do further solemnly swear
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will, well and faithfully,
and that I will, well and faithfully,
discharge the duties of police officer with fidelity.
discharge the duties of a police officer with fidelity.
Congratulations. 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 Your parents are so proud. You have other members of the family here you wish to have stand up and say hello to?
Just go from the back and work my way forward.
I think I see a grandma. Do I see
I
a grandma?
do, yes.
Yeah?
My dad, Papa, my dad's parents. My mom is my mom's mom.
She's the one who's crying.
Yes, the one crying. My girlfriend Megan in the back corner. My sister Ashley and her husband Corey. My godson Luke.
Hey.
Everybody. My brother Drew and his wife Ange. Any other family here? No, but friends. Bruce and Sherry Chubb, lifelong friends. Steve. Sherry Hessenthaler. Mitch and Bill Snyder, previous hockey coaches of mine. Kathleen Wilson,
Oh, boy.
family friend.
And your new family, the
Yes,
Doylestown Township
everyone
Police
else.
Department. They're all here for you. And we're very proud to have you as part of this family.
Thank you very
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So welcome. And it's so good to see you. Glad we got one of you. All right, you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you have to go. Did I hear no? Thank you all for coming.
I don't vote, but I'm sure we'll see each other.
Again?
22 years.
I know.
My kids are older than that.
When I was reading it,
Keep going, Nick.
graduated in 2018.
Thank you. That work out?
You and I were here.
Okay. That was my first swearing in.
You did a wonderful job. I think the toughest thing for him is listening to those words and repeating them. You know, you were better because you gave him enough, short enough that he could remember. But
Yeah.
Well, I kind of
Good job.
thing.
Good job.
I wrote it so it made more sense. I asked permission. Okay. Thank you again, everyone, for coming, especially our police department and new family members. Thank you. Okay. We'll give him a few more minutes. Oh. Party time. Bye, Mama. So long, officer. We'll see you again in uniform. Okay, next item on the agenda is presentation from Kathy Brown on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Board. Everyone received ahead of time the memo prepared by Ways and Means and Parks and Rec and Kathy Brown. Had the opportunity to review. Well, this will be the formal presentation of this. Thank you, Kathy.
Hello, I'm Kathy Brown, part of the Park and Rec Board and a committee member of the Doylestown Township Community Building Committee. Tonight I'm going to present the site options that we have been working on for quite some time, present those options so that we can move forward in our work towards a recreation center. Before I do that, though, I want, you all know me, you guys know me, but I want the public to understand that this is a group effort, that this has been a joint effort. And a lot of the PNR board or the committee is here, the staff is here, who were incredibly helpful in putting all of this together, and the Board of Supervisors. Because with their direction, with their input, we, I believe, have put a concise presentation, a way to look at the options in a concise way. So, agenda, brief history, goals. going to go over the criteria that we used in evaluating the sites. Going to go over the options of the buildings, the locations of those potential sites, our tool that we used in evaluating these sites, the cost involved in our recommendation in moving forward, and what do we do next? That's where we're going. Before I move forward, though, I want everyone to understand that a park and rec, a rec building has been in the plans, or it has been on a plan since the purchase of Central Park. So this is not a new thing. We found, when we were doing our research, we found a 1992, the comp plan, and it had, one of the goals was a recreation building for Central Park. So this is not new stuff. This is not new stuff. And I have to say, when we were building Kids Castle, we were thrilled. That was 1997, 96, 97. It took a while to build it. We had the red building, which is the activities building. We were thrilled with the red building. Thrilled. So the goal in 92 was from 2000, and in 97 we had an activity building. We did. That need is still here. That need is still, it needs to be met, and that's what we have been working towards for over a year. So, what's our next step? What's it going to cost to get to our next step? And how are we going to get there? That's the goal. That's what I want us, when we leave here, to be able to say, here we go. This is how we're moving forward. Now, in our site options, we decided, and this took time because we had lots of criteria. We worked it down. We worked it down. We worked it down to make it, again, presentable and easy to understand. So I want you and I want all of our residents to understand the criteria that we used. So some of it is really simple and really obvious, and some of it I want you to understand. Site consideration. It's obvious. Physical location. Where is it going to be? Okay? Services provided per space. Does it give us what we need now in the immediate future, but even more so down the road? Okay? Can we handle the current, but also does it provide for future needs and growth? Location benefit. So, can my family come to the park, and potentially can I come here and pay a bill and somebody else go to the rec building? That's the location benefit. Is it a part of the whole park system? So that is location benefit. Site congestion. This was a not a tough one, but we tried to figure out the best way to present this, because have any of you been, well, tonight, have you been here in the park on a bright sunny day? It's packed. Tonight, it was packed because of this meeting. I had to park over, heaven forbid I had to park and walk, but I had to park in another lot, you know? So site congestion. Is the site that we are looking at, does it help with congestion? Does it help with the flow of the park? Does it add more to the congestion and slow down the flow of the park? So that's the site congestion. Long-term township assets. Does it provide a value for the community long term? A value to our community, okay? Now and down the road. So I kind of think of this as, will it provide the same 10 years from now, will it meet our needs and provide what the community needs? Aesthetics. Does it stick out like a sore thumb? Or does it fit in? You know, when you pull into the park, are you going to just notice one thing, or will it fit in? So that's the aesthetics. How does it look with what's around it? Future revenue. It's obvious. Does it allow for future revenue potential? Is it there? That means, does it allow for growth? Okay? And cost to implement. If you look, guesstimated cost to build and operate. This one, we're out of our league. I have to admit, we're out of our league. We're volunteers. All right? We're residents. We don't know. We don't have the expertise needed for that. That's one of the reasons we're here. Okay? Is cost to implement. So that's the criteria. That's what we used in going over each of the locations. So now let's talk about the buildings, because the site location is for a building, right? I mean, that's the whole point. We are determining what site might be best, but we have to look at the buildings. So we have two buildings. This is the 12,000 square foot building. It provides ample space for indoor recreation. It provides ample space for not active, let's say, more and I don't know if y'all can hear me, but this is active recreation.
You're going to get yelled at.
Gonna get
You have to
yelled
stay
at.
behind.
No, 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 no.
Oh, you have a mic. Oh.
Oh, perfect.
Ah, okay. Perfect. You're mic'd.
I did. I did.
Well hidden.
Because I'm a walker. Sorry, I have to move around. So, active. This is badminton. This is volleyball. This
Not
is
working.
Oh no.
Told ya.
This one has a yellow dot. Ed. Oh wait, it's green. It's green. All right. I have to He said to put it over here because I'm walking that way. Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Active, not so active. Okay? So, room for, and I think of like the after-school robotics class, or the seminar for healthy living, or the Girl Scouts doing a service project. So that's what this is. Multi-purpose kitchen, bathrooms that could be entered from the outside, and we'll talk about that later. So this is the 12,000 square foot building. This is the 5,600 square foot building. So it's obvious it's smaller. It's smaller. So with this, the recreation use is smaller. The ability to provide everything that the other one could provide is not there, all right? But we still have multipurpose, and we still have indoor recreation area, okay? So, criteria, building, location, okay? Now, this is Central Park, okay? At Central Park, just so you kind of get your bearings, because it's hard to kind of see this. So I'm going to point out and tell you the names of those, the sites of the stores, and obviously where they are. So the green star is New Britain Road, out by the new soccer fields. Yellow star is Field 3, the farthest field down by the small parking lot at the exiting the park. The orange is the pavilion. If you use the park, it's where the bathrooms are. All right, that's where the pavilion is. This is the basin. That's Kids Castle. That's the Public Works building now. Parking lot amphitheater. So it runs in between Public Works, amphitheater, and Kids Castle in the basin. This is where we are right now on the tennis courts. This is Tabor Homes and the potential, there's a potential lease of a facility at Tabor Homes. Those are all, the stars represent new build sites, new. These are existing, okay? Public Works building, trailers, administration, the new one, and the meeting room right there, you know, the new meeting room. So those are existing, but putting them to use. So we have the locations. With that, I named the options. We have the criteria, we have the building. So how did we organize this? We have a matrix, all of our criteria across here, all the basins down here. Pretty simple. Now, I want you to look at this. 3 checks. Meets, it's good. 2 checks, medium. 1 check, not so good. All right? If it's blank, it did not come up and even touch the criteria. All right? That is what we used to compare each site to our criteria. Does that make sense? Yep. So, now, this is what, this is our evaluation. All right? It's a visual. So, obviously, visually, if you go from here, the more checks, the more favorable the site. Let's keep it simple. All right? The more checks, the more favorable the site. Across the board. Again, if there are no checks, it does not meet any level of criteria. So I want you to just take a look at that. And I know you all have already seen it, but just, it's a lot of checks, but there are a couple things I want to point out. All of these are the 12,000 square foot building.
Okay.
This is the smaller building. All right? That's the difference.
So that would be the only place the smaller building would go? On the
That's the
pavilion?
only place we put the smaller building. Okay? And everything else was evaluated to put the large building in there.
Okay.
Now, I want to point out that right here, right here, right here, and right here, if a building is put there, we're giving up what's there. Okay? So if we use Field 3, we lose Field 3. If we put something at the pavilion, we lose the use of the pavilion. All right? So services that were provided there cannot be provided there now. I think the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. Something else to point out, though, that isn't on this matrix, and this is through the conversations that we've had, is like with the basin. If we put which we have the 12,000 square foot building in that basin, the outdoor bathrooms are there for Kids Castle. Okay? That is, so not only are we providing the recreation area, we're also providing the bathrooms. So there's more than just the recreation building there. Any questions on this because I want you to notice, and again, this is visual, that the top two obviously have the most checks, right? You can see that. Now, when looking at things, so you look at what you think is going to be the best. But when you look at what's going to be the best, you also have to look over here, which, again, we guesstimated this. But in doing the top two that appear to be the best, they're also high in cost. Now, if you look, and this is an easier way to see it, if you look down here at the smaller building, it is guesstimated that it will have a smaller cost, right? So, in looking at these site options, what we want to consider is what we think is the best, but maybe see if this one could work too. All right? Just because it is, we're going for the top, and this one is the smallest building, but is it worth pursuing? Do we want to see if it can provide things? So, in looking at this, in looking at the site congestion, in looking at what, I don't want to say floats to the top, but it does float to the top. What we as a committee would like to see, would recommend to see, is that we, because I said, we need help here. This is, the cost part of it is up to the professionals. It's not up to the volunteers. It's not up to us. So, in moving forward, our recommendation is to pursue, through the use of professionals, the engineering sketch, the zoning and parking analysis, and the detailed cost for those 3 sites that we highlighted. That's our recommendation. But my goal was to come here to present our information, to present our site analysis, and then together move forward and work forward. So I am requesting that we move forward to pay to have those sites analyzed.
The first 2 sites, and then the basin site, or the pavilion site at 5,600.
Right.
Those would be the 3 you want.
Those would be the 3.
Okay.
Those, it's what we think are the top 2 and the least expensive.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be that, but that's it gives the good and the least.
Questions? Other questions? Rick?
I'll wait. I mean, who else wants to ask first? I don't want to jump in all the time. I think everybody knows kind of where I'm at.
I don't have a question necessarily, but I do want to commend the work of the Parks and Rec Committee, as well as the Ways and Means and the subcommittees and the Parks and Rec Department for putting all this together, and Ken Snyder for assisting with the matrix, And but I did have a question about the basin. With the basin, it does say. Can you put that back up? So with the basin, it says.
Do you want the one without the green, or is that one okay?
No, the green's fine. The basin, are we going to lose anything by utilizing the basin? Is that being utilized right now for any water issues or?
The basin itself, the water issue would have to be addressed.
Right.
So taking care of that, yes, but actual use, it's not a other than the drainage. We would have to address the drainage and address where that water that basin collects goes.
Okay.
And after that, it's not, you see a kid roll down the hill every
Yeah.
now and then,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not, we're not giving up usable park space for that.
All right. I was also looking at the pavilion, the smaller pavilion. You have 2 checks for long-term township asset. Why is that a lower?
Because it's a smaller building.
Okay.
It's a smaller building.
The larger
And-
building, you could rent that space to other athletic organizations.
Right.
And that gets to be very lucrative.
Okay.
Because there aren't any facilities that are available.
Well, I saw that more as the future revenue, but I'm just looking at,
Yeah.
it's just a definition of the area.
It's smaller and potentially outgrow it faster.
Okay.
If
Yeah, because I think eventually you're going to need a larger one anyway. Right? It's a
so,
stopgap.
and here's something to think about, that when you imagine the pavilion that's out there, that pavilion, I walked it off, and it's about a little more than 1,100 square feet, the pavilion that's out there. So the small building is 5 times that pavilion. The large building is 12 times that. So when you think of what would fit there and the effect that it would have on everything else, that's something to think about.
Additionally, with the basin option, the congestion issue, how would we relieve the issue with parking?
In the work that could be done as far as the basin goes, if you imagine driving from here out of the park, so the space between the road and heading towards the basin, that is space that could be developed into parking. So we have space there that could add parking to so it could alleviate parking,
Thank you. Yeah.
the need. Right?
Well, first, thank you. This is very helpful. The larger building, that's one basketball court? Okay, so it's just one.
But,
It
oh,
could
yeah.
be split, and so, excuse my
Little
naivete.
leagues.
Like, if you split it down the middle and then you have baskets on either end here, is that a regulation basketball court, or no, it's smaller?
The full
right?
court is a regulation court.
Right, but if you split it down, like, you could
But-
essentially have 2 half
Half-courts.
courts? Okay. So,
Or to badminton, or to volleyball, or to
Pickleball.
pickleball. Well, actually 4 pickleball, but
okay, that's helpful. This is actually, all your heads are going to explode, because I'm actually more attuned to the larger building, and I'm actually wondering if there is an opportunity for us to explore. So I've been doing a ton of research on the rentals, and I think the way we have to look at this is, like Barb said, what is the long-term township asset? And if we can create a rental machine to generate continuous revenue, I don't see that happening with a smaller building. I just don't think we're going to be able to generate the revenue that we want to. And I watch how these rentals are happening. There is a unit on 611 going north, right past the Dunkin' Donuts. It's a thrift shop, and it has Intensity Sports. My daughter practices lacrosse there twice a week now, because they can't find any other indoor space. It is about as big as this room, and it has pillars in the middle of it, and they get $250 an hour for 40 girls to run around a room like this. And so what I'm trying to say is there an opportunity for us to look at the idea, and have you guys explored any idea of basketball and some sort of turf too? Because from what I've gathered, these indoor turf fields generate a ton of revenue. I don't know what the cost is and okay, clearly it's astronomical, but I just see how they are like spinning money. And I mean, clearly whoever did this one, he rolled some turf down on some random, and he makes so much money off of it, whoever owns that. But I don't know if you guys have ever explored that.
Not the turf, not indoor turf anyway, no. That's in our comp plan, in our focus meetings, the need for the outdoor turf has been brought up a lot. The need for indoor rec space is also brought up for multi-use.
Well, let me ask you this.
So
is it worth looking at options that complement an indoor building with a outdoor turf field next to it?
Well,
is that like? I know I'm like
It's number 13.
Separate
Yeah.
plan.
Could you explain a little bit about the business plan? That'll answer her question.
I'm only saying when you look at this, look at the full scope of if you want to start talking about this as a revenue stream and a real revenue stream, we're talking about one basketball court. If you really want to look at this as a long-term asset to the township where we can actually say, we know we're going to bring in X amount of dollars each year off of our rentals. Maybe we take a more comprehensive look at what that is.
And when we look at that, I think we also need to remember that we need to balance that this is a Doylestown Township community building as well. So we want to make a balance between the full-time all-out rental and that it's available to our residents as well.
Yeah.
So we could definitely look into the balance of doing that. Like we do the group, Kids Castle has group days. So we could work something like that, but Ryan, the turf field we're working on this, and when we get approval to move forward with this, once we know what we have, then we can work on a business plan and work on what will work in that building.
That's what I was trying to say, more of a comprehensive park complex for rentals. I understand that this is for the community, but I think if you kind of flip we keep talking about how it's going to generate revenue, maybe you take a bigger look at how we do that in a big way. So,
and that's part of as Ken said, that's what the business plan would address as well.
And also, when we went to that seminar
up in Lafayette,
the one thing that was brought up to us, which your instincts are dead on, they were saying the one thing that they wish they did was have 2 basketball courts or 3 basketball courts.
They have 2.
Right.
Montgomery.
The one was, 2 was just not enough. So the idea of having a facility that has potential growth into another one, but maybe we'll look at what we can have now and build on it.
I am very pleased to look at what we have now and get moving on what we have now, and then see if there's potential for other.
Okay.
That would be fantastic.
Other questions?
Yes. As far as location, I like the basin. I think it gives us an opportunity. It's close to the building. You got room to add parking. It's accessible to Kids Castle, the bathrooms. I think the basin is a good location. My concern, as you know, is $4 million. Where do I get $4 million on top of all the money I'm spent for that building next door, plus for the pension? And that's a big chunk, and the revenue's just not going to come close to bringing that in. Let's get in the real world. That's just not realistic. More to what Ryan is saying, that if you put a basketball court in there, then you're going to get a basketball game, or if you can split that into 4, 3, whatever, and one is lacrosse, one is Girl Scout troops, et cetera, et cetera. I think you got some opportunity, but not that you're looking for a revenue stream. I don't think you're going to get anywhere near the kind of revenue stream that's going to pay for a $4 million building. I think the 5,600-foot building meets the needs, and, with the bathrooms, I don't know about the kitchen, but the bathrooms and having it accessible, because that's one of the biggest complaints we get, is there's no bathrooms at Kids Castle. So I think, again, the basin's a great spot. I think 5,600 feet can be worked if you work on the building a little bit. And yes, you can utilize this section over here for different sports, et cetera, and not make it one big basketball court. And, look at the kitchen, look at trimming some of that stuff down and gain even more space.
Well,
Do
so
you see some
in
utility?
saying that,
Excuse me, do you see some utility in having the 3 sites evaluated as requested?
Yeah, I
Because
think
that's
there
what,
is.
before we get into too much detail
Well, I
about
think
which building, where,
I know, but I
and
think
what.
it's important to get it out, especially with the Park and Rec people here. And it's good, Ryan's expressing her opinion, and I think the Park and Rec is learning where we're at, and I think I think we should spend a few more minutes and tell them where we're coming from, so that they can hopefully take some of these thoughts and ideas, and also, this was a great presentation. I'm not here to pat you on the back. It was a good presentation, though, and you and your committee did a good job. It was very clear, very succinct, very easy to understand. So I'm just giving you my thoughts, and I think it's Ken's turn, and I think that this conversation is good.
well, and I would go back to you, Rick, and say, instead of taking the 5,600 and try to make it a little bigger,
8,000, yeah.
and functional, could we take this building and morph it and maybe bring it in some, so make it smaller but still functional and still have the indoor space that we need. So neither one is made of block right now. Neither one is, both of the sites can, or both of the buildings can be worked.
I think that's a great idea, too, looking at if 8,000 square feet meets the needs to make 4 different squares, for lack of a better...
Yeah,
'cause
courts.
I was at that same place with my grandson, and we did baseball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's a small... You could put 4 of these building rooms in there. So I think...
But we can do both of them. I mean, right? We could explore the use of both of them. But we really need
You go to the next step.
to get a
one
commitment
of the
on
things, and then
exploring
I'll
the site
shut up and let
options.
whoever wants to... When you get these things done, though, Ken, as far as the estimates, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you tell them it's 5,600 square feet, they're going to give you one price. If it's 8,000, another price. So if you give them the 12,000, you have to also put in there, well, what about, and I'm assuming 8,000 meets most of the need. They're not going to give you 8,000 unless you ask for it, or whatever the right amount is. So I think you just can't say, do these 3 here. I think you have to put some constraints or some changes, modifications. If we make it 8,000 feet by shrinking this, I think we'll get a little bit more than just that one number.
But that's potential in dealing with the engineers too, right?
And I think one of the things that, as if we move forward here, one of the things we would do is we would meet with the engineers, have a little kickoff meeting, and kind of talk about this a little bit and up front. And we could be with professional staff, with the engineers, with volunteers to say, okay, let's kind of talk about this and get it detailed enough that we can do an analysis, get real numbers, but not be too general and not too detailed that we get lost into, well, we've locked ourselves into a square
A
footage.
certain spot.
I think the idea is we want to start here and we want to get to here, like the funnel effect, okay, of kind of thinking up big and then come down and narrow it down as we move forward.
Yeah, and I don't know what that narrowed, and that's what I'm throwing it back, I guess, to you and your committee. I don't know if 8,000 feet's right. I just picked
But
that
I think
number.
we can work with the engineers and figure that out. Figure that out in the process of analyzing those 3 sites, if we need to do the 3 sites, whatever.
First of all, I think I want to make sure we set the expectation on the estimates that are going to be developed. It's not going to be for a project estimate, we're going to go get X dollars. It's going to be a range of dollars. So it's not to say if it is at 4.25 million or 1.67 million. So just make sure everybody understands that. I requested the 5,000 square foot building to be estimated because, as Rick had already mentioned, I want to make sure we have the option to choose how we want to allocate our funds, because we do have a lot of other big ticket items hanging out there. And as he mentioned, the pension is one big one. So there's a couple of things. So if there's ways if we believe that it's better to spend 1 million versus 4 for the betterment of the township, then we need to have that option. So I'm glad to see the 3, and I thought you did a very good job on that, Kathy. It's excellent.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was with your help.
Okay, we know what the presentation is asking,
Would you go to
that
the
we
last
approve.
slide?
Go back to the numbers, please. Yeah.
Last slide.
Asking that we approve the expense of $19,600 to do these site preparation, zoning, and cost estimates. And these are just estimates.
Yes.
These are feasibility numbers and look-sees. We're not locking into any building, any location, any size, any purpose. We're just looking to see the sites based on the size and what makes sense. And I appreciate the analysis based on the check marks, that the Basin, Wells, New Britain Road, and the Pavilion are the 3 top choices for now, and that narrows it down. So is there a motion to approve the expenditure of $19,600 for these studies?
I'd like to make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further question?
Yeah, I just want to say one last comment that I fully don't expect, whether it's basketball courts or anything, to pay for this building. We're going to, out of tax dollars, pay for the building. I know that. So we'll get a business plan, but in the real world, I know, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with paying, if that's the right word, allocating money for this building from the tax dollars. It's not that I'm opposed to that. And whatever revenue you can get. We talked about naming rights, which that was part of the plan, naming rights and interior advertising and everything, which is all great stuff. I'm encouraged that we continue to look down those roads once we get things analyzed. I'm done.
Okay, Rick, that's good.
Barb, before you call into question, I just wonder, with Boucher and James and J.D. Bravo, who's going to be able to do a market analysis for us on the rental revenue?
Not them.
That's the next step.
That would
be after this.
After,
Yes.
Okay. That's not
Yes.
happening now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be done prior to coming forward for a request of project approval.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
all going to be part of the
part of
same
it.
package.
Okay.
Here's what we have for a business plan based on this need, this location, this size. We think we can get X amount of dollars over the next 20 years that will pay for this amount of millage that will be required to borrow to pay for the borrowing of this money to pay for this building. And we think that in 20 years it will be paid off.
Got it.
Something like that. Am I right? Yes. So I think, but that's all the presentation at one time. Well,
That'll
around the
come
same
later.
time.
Several.
Yes. And we have to
But not now.
this
but-
done
Yes.
first.
Yeah, and the conversation is going to be ongoing. Size, need, looking for the needs, looking to see what the market is. We all know intuitively and by own, anecdotal information here that there is a need. So I think that's pretty. Everyone stated it. So there's a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anything from the audience? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Hearing none, we have a 5-0. Thank you very much,
Thank
Kathy.
you all. Thank you very much.
Board, Ways and Means, staff, Karen Sweeney, Caitlin, especially Kathy Brown, and anybody else in the back there. Thank you
Group
very much.
effort.
Well done. All right. Announcements.
Visitors and public comment.
Oh, any visitors or public comment before we move on? I apologize. Hearing none, moving on. No hands raised. Next meeting of this board is Tuesday, April 2nd at 5 p.m. We're going to meet on Tuesday, April 2nd at 3 p.m., the Ways and Means. So please come out. We're going to be doing a budget work session. In partnership with Premier World Discovery, Doylestown Township Park and Rec is sponsoring a trip to Rome and the country roads of Tuscany in 2019. Also in partnership, Doylestown Township Parks and Rec is sponsoring a trip to 9/11 Memorial in New York City on April 26th. Doylestown Township Unsung Hero Award, the deadline for submission for Unsung Heroes is on May 15th. So please get it could be anybody in the community, it could be somebody who works on a park as a volunteer, it could be somebody you know in your neighborhood who does good work. It doesn't have to be someone who's connected with, who's done stuff in the township necessarily for the township. It could be anybody in the Doylestown Township community who is deserving of an award because they do stuff, not for recognition, not for resume building, not for monetary gain or anything else, but just to do good. So we're looking for those heroes amongst us who should get recognition when they're the most deserving, who seek it the least. Next announcement is that we're having a blood drive. It's very important, especially this time of year. Monday, April 16th, 2 to 7. It's going to be at the Red Cross Bloodmobile will be here by the tennis courts, so sign up with redcrossblood.org. And then movie tickets are available, so come and, check out at the administrative offices. And if you got potholes, check and make sure it's a township road first before you call us. For state roads, you can go to 1-800-FIX-ROAD. That's the actual telephone number, 1-800-FIX-ROAD. If you want to see if it's a township road, you can call us, or at 9915, or you can also see state roads are on our website. So don't call us first, go make sure it's our road. Leaf and yard waste recycling is the third Saturday of each month, 9 to 11, and you dump your stuff at the New Britain Road entrance to Central Park. Next item on the agenda, I have another announcement. Kids Castle is closing.
Closed.
Kathy? It's closing, March 25th. So we can continue to build the kingdom, and the next phase of building is for children of all abilities. So that's the next phase of this kingdom, which Kathy Brown, by the way, was one of the founders of the original Kids Castle. She and her husband and everybody else out there with hammers and organization, and so Kathy deserves, she's one of the founders of the kingdom. So your kingdom continues, Queen Kathy Brown. So closing March 25th, it'll be closed until everything is implanted where it should be, and we'll have a huge opening or reopening following. And we'll have further announcements as we go forward. Nothing else? Okay. March 5th, 2019 minutes are next for your consideration. Looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Okay. Any questions? Any changes, corrections? Hearing none, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Oh, an abstention, thank you. Okay, we have a correspondence from Ms. Herring, who is daughter of, Colette Herring's daughter of one of our supervisors from long ago, requesting a wall of honor, and we will probably have an honor board of chairman. We've had one in the past, we'll probably continue, and that will be something that the building committee will take up, correct?
Correct.
All right, so that's in planning.
Mr. Harrigan is
Okay.
resigning.
The other item that we have in terms of correspondence is the resignation of Kevin Harrington from the Park and Rec Board. He's just, the gentleman, from Ways and Means. Oh, sorry, Ways and Means. He's just too busy and he feels guilty not making all the meetings. So we'll give him a break, invite him back whenever he can make it. Is there a motion to accept his resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With regret. He's a good guy. All right, but stay tuned, Kevin. We're not going to lose you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you want to do the appointment?
Oh, yes. We considered an addition to our Park and Rec Board before the start of today's meeting, and we interviewed Ms. Bauman, and I'd like to hear the board's consideration for this appointment. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion. I think she's great.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any further conversation?
No.
What's the first name? Madeline? Mary?
Mary Ann Bowman.
Yeah, thank you.
For the Park and Rec Board.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Mary Ann Bowman is now a member of the Park and Rec Board. She was Karen Sweeney's art teacher in middle school. So she's going to be bringing that teacher thing back to Walsall. All right, solicitor.
For the past, it seems like an inordinate amount of time, most of it trying to schedule the PBA to be available, we've been in negotiations with respect to a new police contract. The last contract expired the end of December of 2018. As a result of those discussions, I believe I'm here tonight to recommend that the board approve the new police contract, which will begin January 1, 2019 and end through December 31, 2022. And the relevant portions of the new agreement are obviously the wage increase, which is 3.25%, 3.25%, 3.25%, 3.5% over 4 years. In addition, not related to the economics, but officers that go into the drop program that have accumulated sick leave are able to cash out some of that, and that's going to be, they've requested and the board's agreed that that'll be paid annually into their 457B plan as opposed to in cash. In addition, we do provide an opt-out for officers that choose not to take our insurance, and instead of being paid in a lump sum, the parties have agreed that'll be paid each paycheck. So if someone has a life-changing event where they have to get health insurance or leave the employee, that opportunity would then dissipate. Now, in addition, the form that the board got on your packet on Friday has had a change. And that is the language about new police officers and the health insurance plan was one that their counsel was agreeable with, but it was sent to Sean McGee, who was the chief negotiator for the PBA, and he was correct when he said that was not quite what the parties had agreed to. So instead of that, what it is that all new police officers hired after March 1 will be included in the plan that is offered to the non-uniform employees for 5 years. After that, they have the option of either staying in that plan or proceeding to the other plan. However, we have another negotiation coming up in 4 years, so effectively it means that new folks will be in the less expensive plan from now and for 5 years. So unless there's any questions, I believe that I would recommend the board approve the new police contract.
And I reviewed the police contract with the red lines in it, and it's been intimate part of the negotiations. Agree that they're fairly represented in the draft that was presented to you, and the correction is also accurate. So, for what that's worth.
Okay.
And with that, I would move the board. I'll make that motion to approve the police contract beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Okay. Any further conversation?
You have any conversation?
No, I have no conversation.
Well, I'll make
Please.
a comment. We've all been struggling, and I hate to keep bringing up money, but, we've all been struggling with the health benefits and the cost. It's out of sight, I don't tell you that. And we went to the non-union and the union and explained...
Non-uniform.
Non-uniform and the police. And we explained to them that, right now we're paying a very low amount. And the non-uniform agreed, and we worked out something where they contribute more, but the police refused. And it was $14 a month, if I'm not mistaken, that we wanted to increase their contribution. They contribute $14 now. It's a Cadillac plan, which is what President Obama mentioned, and now we wanted another $14, so it would be $28 a month. But they weren't in agreement, and for financial reasons, the board decided not to fight it. To go to arbitration would cost us more money than what we were trying to negotiate. I think it was more of a good faith value portion. We were hoping that the police would see and understand that, but they didn't.
Anything else?
Not from me.
There's a motion and a second. Does anyone else have a comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Madam
Chief?
Chairperson.
I have nothing.
Township engineer?
I have nothing.
Director of operations?
Yes, you have in your packet a memo recommending the award of our 2019-2020 road material bids. As part of the Bucks County Consortium, we participated in the bid process with local municipalities to obtain bids for roadway materials for the 2019-2020 construction seasons. I am asking for your approval to accept the bids from Eureka Stone Quarry, Hanson Aggregates BMC Incorporated, Highway LLC, Plumstead Materials Division of Naceville Materials, and Miller Materials Division of Naceville Materials for this year going forward to 2020.
I'll make the motion.
Any questions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What else you got?
I have, you received a copy of my memo, which outlines the changes to the municipal complex budget. I have a memo requesting your approval of change order number 7 for Penn Builders. This is for changing the floor grout from regular floor grout to a urethane floor grout, and also to install a panel between a mop sink and electrical panel for code purposes. The total of that change order is $4,809. I'm asking for your approval.
I make a motion we approve change order number 7 for $4,809.
Just a second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Dave?
Just like to note that you received J.D. Bravo's monthly report for March 2019, was sent in a separate cover.
We did.
Just, and that's all I have.
Very well done, by the way.
And you
I
also
like
have a
that.
change summary in here to outline where we have been and what we are doing up to date.
Correct.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a lot to stay on top of, Dave, so I really appreciate your efforts. Doing a good job. Thank you. Where are we? Manager.
I just have training requests for Dave Tomko and myself to attend the PSATS conference. It requires an overnight stay, so it needs board approval. Also, the second training for me to attend the APMM conference as well. And Special Projects Coordinator received a Bucks County Consortium scholarship, which will enable her to attend the conference at no cost to the township.
So that third one is not an expense?
An expense, it's just an information.
Okay, so the first 3 items, Dave Tomko and the manager going to PSATS, and the manager going to the other conference, ICMA conference.
ICMA.
Is there a motion to approve those 3 stays?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion. It's money well spent. Anytime we get training, it's money well spent.
Certainly is.
All right, well, I'll second then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations to Andrea for being
Yep.
able to go.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
That's excellent, thank you. Next item is any unfinished business. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep getting lost in this agenda, my bad. All right, supervisors. Jen, have anything?
The only thing I have is I just wanted to recognize and express that my heart goes out to the people of Christchurch in New Zealand. These tragic events started by white supremacist violence have been not only going on here in our country, as we remember Pittsburgh, but throughout the world. And I wanted to express my outrage and my sadness over events like this, not only to the people far away in New Zealand, but the people of the Muslim community who certainly feel the pain of and the fear that these types of terrorist attacks present to them.
Thanks, Jen. Wilson?
Nothing.
Rick, you have anything?
Yes, I do. The Planning Commission is going to have an extra work session because things are piling up a bit. We're getting a lot of developer plans in, and so we needed to get an extra session to go over updating our comp plan, among other things, ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. So that is tomorrow. So So if you thought tonight was fun, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right here,
Oh, yeah.
you're really going to be in for a good time. And one of the interesting things, we're also, the demographics obviously change every year, so we got the updates, I believe, 2017, and it's very specific. It's very specific for Doylestown Township, and 1/4 of our population is over the age of 60, and it's growing each year. So, I mean, keep that in mind as we're moving on, that we've got an older population in Doylestown, and probably many of them on fixed incomes.
Yeah, but the new 60, I mean, the 60 is the new 30, right? Or the 30 is the new 60, one of those things, so we had a third of our life.
I don't know. I don't know about that. So-
We all like to think that.
It's a
That's
good way
all.
to think. All right, thank you. Ryan?
I just want to thank actually the Board of Supervisors. I was missed last meeting, and I just want to let the public know that, number one, unfortunately, in the past several months, my work has kind of my actual day job has taken me out of town. But I appreciate the Board of Supervisors for working with me in my absence and. Really keeping me up to speed. And just so the public knows, like, when I'm not at the meeting, it does not mean that I have not reviewed everything and worked with the supervisors on any questions that I have, and am still completely informed on what's going on. So I appreciate your willingness to work with me on that.
Sure, absolutely. Anything else? Okay. Now can I get to, we're going to unfinished business now that I know where I am on the agenda. Traffic, PennDOT roundabouts.
The board will recall it was pretty much a year ago, in 2018, that PennDOT was here to discuss a proposal that they have to do roundabouts at the 611 north-south
Right.
Sourman
Yeah, over
situation, over there.
Over in Kathy's neighborhood.
New Britain Road. At that time, they had their consultant make the presentation, and there were a lot of questions, and they were going to take our questions back, do more research and information, and I followed up because we haven't heard from them, and they kept kind of putting us off and putting us off. So they have a new person on the project, Kurt Venditti from PennDOT. They have done some environmental scoping and some additional field work and getting information. I did suggest they get more crash data because we had made some changes out there and they were using some old data, and he agreed to do that. I then asked him to come back to make an updated presentation to the board, and he was hoping to be able to do that this spring. Unfortunately, he then went and checked to find out that the agreement they have for funding their consultant expired. So they're in the process of renewing all that with their consultant and their agreements and updating those, which will probably take them sometime through May. So my guess is that they're not going to be able to come visit us until sometime this summer.
Or
So-
more like September,
October, but that's where we're at this moment.
Okay.
So
We'll
just
put that on the
FYI,
back burner.
It's simmering, yeah.
So if they're going to evaluate the different new crash data, does that mean the project could get pulled?
Possibly.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's
No,
always
I think
possible.
it's,
I think they don't want to do it anyway,
I-
frankly.
yeah.
No, I think they want to do it for sure. I think the mandate is from Harrisburg that roundabouts are the way to go. Get them in, put them in. But the corollary to the traffic accidents being down is the justification that they used to get this move
Right.
was line of sight. And now with Tabor Homes coming in, Rick Lyons is going to knock that whole section out. When you come to that stop sign now, you're going to be able to see Wawa. So, I mean, the line of sight is gone. So I'm pessimistic they're going to do it no matter what, but I would hope that you tell Carl that we also are going to be getting rid of that in the next X amount of months.
They actually asked for a copy of, they know that there's some development occurring in the area, and I sent a copy. Gilmore was nice enough to share the sketch, so I know that's something that Gilmore, who's doing the plans for that property, was concerned about this and how it all fits in. So they have a copy of the sketch.
Good.
Obviously, it's not set in stone or anything like that, but,
Good. That's, I just
so
wanted
at
to
least
make
they
sure.
have, everybody's got the same information at
Good,
this point.
Good,
and
okay.
We await their return.
I'm not holding my breath. Okay, new business. Pepper Ridge, Woodbridge Area Sewer Project, clearing, grubbing, change order number 3, too much rain. Is that what I
Yes,
get?
they're extending completion to the end of April. This was, you extended this once before due to weather conditions, and we've had 22 inches more rain than typically we have, and so I'd recommend this change order so that they can continue to move it along, and this is a requirement under, our loans and everything from PennVest on the project, so.
All right. So we have to give them the extension. Is there a motion to approve the extension?
Move to approve.
And I'll second it, and just for clarity, yeah, certain things have to be done, but my understanding is, unless it's changed, that they're still going to be on schedule for the entire project, summer of 2020. It's just they need these extensions for certain
Contractual.
Yes, and
Parts of it, right,
there's
right.
no cost associated with it.
Right,
It's just,
right.
it's all time due to weather.
Just wanted to
and
make sure that was clear. We're still
Yeah.
on, we're still on schedule.
At this moment, we are still on
I
schedule.
haven't looked at the website, but are they posting the updates to the website like they said they
They
would?
just, yes.
And-
We just had
and,
an update recently. There was a little bit of delay due to weather and
Okay.
having to go back to DEP for some changes. But the nice thing is, we have our little group, Mr. Salonik's a part of that, and Joe Van Houten, Mr. Colello, myself, Ken Wallace, and Colleen Mullen from the neighborhood, as well as Rod Stone from our Public Water and Sewer. And the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority comes along with the engineer, and we sit and usually do an early morning meeting, and we get updates from them, and that's happening. And so we just did a recent update, but weather has certainly, that and a redesign at a location and some additional work that DEP is requiring on the crossing. But it's moving along.
Thank you, thank you. Eagle Scout proclamation is next item on the agenda. Did I call the question on that last one? Was there a motion in a second?
It was.
All right, calling the question on that extension approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, now to the Eagle Scout proclamation of Alexander John Pepiat, Troop 71. Is there a motion to approve the proclamation for this young man getting his Boy Scout Troop Number 71 Eagle Scout and his Eagle Scout Court of Honor on April 28th?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And zoning hearing board application of Holbert, 1607 Easton Road. I'm not quite sure if I understand what they are asking here.
I
Are we
agree.
objecting to it? You do understand it? or-
No, I didn't.
No.
Okay, so
That's
I'm not the
why-
only
no.
one.
Clear.
I didn't get it. Are we?
No, this
Are we
is
gonna-
certainly, the zoning hearing board is quite capable of addressing the relief they're requesting, some variances related to parking, and the bottom line, and we've seen this before at some of our other dealerships, where the owners of the automobiles require two separate buildings. So we'll be seeing a land development as well. But in order to accommodate the request from, I believe it's Audi and Porsche, they have to go back to the zoning hearing board and be able to create the appropriate parking and setbacks and everything. But, they need some variances in order to do that. And I think our zoning hearing board has seen them before and will be able to address their needs
So
there.
we don't need to take any other action.
We'll leave this to the zoning hearing board.
Okay, so be it. All right, next item is the treasurer's report for March 19th, 2019. You received it electronically. Is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Similarly, the bills list for March 19, 2019 received electronically. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next meeting of this board is Tuesday, April 2nd at 5, and we're going to have a Ways and Means budget session at 3 on April 2nd. We have a partnership with Premier World Discovery, trip to Tuscany and the country roads of Rome, and you can contact the administrative offices for details. And we're sponsoring, Georgetown Park and Rec is sponsoring a bus trip to the 9/11 Museum on April 26th. Unsung Hero Award application deadlines or submission deadlines, nominations, May 15, 2019. Don't forget to contribute blood, Monday, April 16th, 2 to 7, right here. You can sign up redcrossblood.org for your slot. Movie tickets are available, and if you got potholes, don't call here. Go on the website, find out if you should. Leaf and yard recycling every third Saturday of the month between 9 and 11. Drop-off site, New Britain Road, entrance to Central Park. And that's it.
Kids Castle.
Oh, and Kids Castle. It's closing March 25th. Stand by for details. Thank you very much,
Kathy
everybody. We
rounded
are
her up, but
adjourned.
She has a bit of a southern accent.
I don't know.
Thank you, Park and Rec, Ways and Means. Good
You hear it, don't you?
And we have